Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live, talk radio without the static. Email your questions and comments to lynn@pghcitypaper.com. And now your host, Lynn Cullen.
Yes, the very same, and a good morning to you. It is, I don't know what. It's August 29th, good God. And it's a Tuesday. We don't have my sister on today, but we're shooting for next week. We're shooting for next week with lots of things. We're going to be able to have phone calls. We're going to have my sister back, all that kind of stuff, back to normal on Tuesday. So I'm grateful for that. Oh, man. All right, where do I start? So the president is on his way to Texas. I'm sure that's very helpful. The state of Texas literally inundated with an awful lot of water and people who need rescuing and devastation and all of that. And so the president is, with his wife, flying in. He's airborne as we speak. To do what? Can you imagine all of the personnel that could be helping the victims of the ongoing disaster of this storm will now have to be peeled away to deal with the president's arrival. The governor of the state will have to go deal with the president's arrival. This is, well, it's what one would suspect of a total narcissist. I mean, this is a guy who just doesn't have a clue, doesn't get it. He sees an opportunity, all those cameras there, everybody's watching, so he's got to get there, center stage. He's talking about coming back on Saturday. Oh, God. All right, so there's that. I don't know how. Speaking of water, wait a minute. Speaking of water and coming back closer to home, the Pittsburgh Water and Sewer Authority, any of you who are under its control in any manner, who have sent it money and billed regularly for having potable water directly to your home, are maybe hearing, or you're aware, of course, that they don't seem to be functioning very well. And now we have some blue ribbon report that's come out, which is so horrific in its assessment, of how bad things are with the water here, that it should give pause to any of us. Apparently, the water system that we have here in the city of Pittsburgh is, according to these experts that came in and who've looked at a lot of other older cities' water systems, the absolute hands-down worst they've ever seen. It apparently, well, what they compared it to, this is amazing, the largest irrigation system they'd ever seen. That's what they called, essentially, the PWSA. And the reason they called it the largest irrigation system is that half of the water that comes out of its treatment plant, which is intended to go to its customers, to their homes, to their businesses, half of the water that we pay to be treated so that we can then have it back, half of it literally seeps into the ground. The system is so full of leaks that fully 50% of the water, the clean, potable water that is produced, at great expense, I might add, goes immediately into the ground. Largest irrigation system they've ever seen. Water, water everywhere. So I heard that today and I thought, oh dear, oh gosh, that's a problem. So the mismanagement of that local utility has been apparently off the charts for decades. And I suppose we, the people, bear some responsibility in that it was known decades ago that we need money. They need money to try to modernize this old system. But money comes from where? That'd be us. Money comes from us in large part, and no politician can win election anymore anywhere in this country if they tell us that we're going to have to raise taxes because we've got to repair this thing. That is, I mean, truly what government is there for, right? And so they let it go and let it go and let it go. And the old saw, a stitch in time saves 9. Well, we got 9, 10, 11, 12 stitches now where if we'd had real leadership and if we had been serious citizens, we could have maybe fixed the situation or begun to fix it in a more timely and less expensive fashion. Anyway, just saying. And as I say this, of course, parts of the city and surrounding areas to the north, like Milldale and I guess Brighton Heights and folks like that, are under a boil. They cannot drink the water that's coming out of the system. Those of us in the East End had something like that not too long ago. So you have to boil the water. You got to run your tap for a minute. Then you got to get whatever water comes out, and then you got to boil it. And then only after that should you give it to your dog. That's what it says. Oh, God. So all of these water in the wrong places. A lot of that. So I've only been to Houston once, and it was a long, long time ago. My brother had just gotten his law degree. Maybe not. Had just gotten his PhD. He was wont to get a lot of degrees. I think this was the PhD. And he was hired by the University of Houston to teach. And so he went to Houston. Normally, I went down to see him and his then new wife. And I thought Houston was a hellhole. I was sort of struck by the hideousness of Houston. Now, I'm sorry if I'm offending anybody here. But I said to my brother, God, this place it just has no sense of, can't even tell, where's the city? What is, and he said there are no zoning laws in Houston. And apparently that's still true. There are no zoning laws. So I was traversing through a landscape that made no sense to me because I guess every other place I'd been has zoning laws. So you expect, here's a commercial area, here's a residential area, here we allow this, here you wouldn't see that. You wouldn't have a lovely home next to a drive-through restaurant. In Houston, you do. As a matter of fact, my brother's apartment was. You could, out of his window, you could hear every word from the McDonald's drive-through. So would you like fries with that was like a constant, sort of a constant in his lovely Houston apartment. No zoning laws. Yep, you betcha, because that's Texas where people, are free. They are free. And because there are no zoning laws and because Houston was offering a lot of jobs to people, like a lot of displaced steel workers from this area and other folks, people gravitated to Houston for job opportunities. So Houston grew quickly with no zoning regulations. What had been surrounding wetlands paved over like that. You don't have to go before any zoning board before you build anything because there is no zoning. So they took the natural landscape and through urban sprawl, suburban sprawl, and absolutely no governmental interference in whatever anybody wanted to pave over, Houston grew and grew and grew into this concrete monstrosity where water, when it falls, cannot get into the ground. It can only do what we are seeing now. So maybe in that regard, Pittsburgh's better off. At least when water falls here, it can get into the ground. And even after it's sort of captured and put into our water treatment facility, half of it still escapes right back into the ground. So water can permeate our ground here. Houston, no. But real estate, business, that's big in Houston. And those guys have had generations of nobody telling them what they can build, where they can build it, and what natural setting they can despoil for profit. So I can't imagine that after this is over and cleaned up years from now, that Houstonians will have learned that lesson, begun even to ameliorate the damage they have done. What was that?
No idea.
Okay. I don't know if you heard that, but it was a little like, internet-y noise. Okay, so I just wanted to point that out because I remember telling my brother, I was there just for a day or two, and I said, I sure as hell hope you get out of here because I'm never coming back to see you here. I will not go back there. The weather, oh my God, it was so hot and humid. And So Houston, I have a very bad feel for anyway. And a lot of what I reacted to when I saw the aesthetic hideousness of the city, I wasn't even thinking about the environmental damage caused by that level of governmental neglect and dereliction. Another issue that's coming out of this is, why didn't they tell everybody to get out of town? And this shows how memories are short. But thank God the memory of the mayor of Houston was not short, because that's what they did. It was just 2 weeks after Katrina. We forget. 2 weeks after Katrina, another hurricane comes boiling into the Gulf. This one's named Rita. And this is before they started using male names, I guess. They're all women, furious women. And Rita was supposed to go right into Houston. And after seeing what happened to New Orleans, and what in fact was still happening to New Orleans, the horror there, the then government said, get the hell out of here. And so people jumped in their cars, and what ensued was a nightmare of, it was the biggest traffic jam probably ever in the history of certainly the country. I've seen some in Asia, so I'm not going to say the world. And things got so bad that, 100 people died? trying to evacuate. A bigger death toll than thus far with this hurricane. So, you got 5 million people there, right? You got a lot of concrete roads, that's for sure, but you can't evacuate 5 million people in a day or two. Maybe you could in a week or two, but not in a day or two. So, and now, of course, we're going to have a disaster aid package. And you got all these Texas senators and congressmen who voted against any federal relief for the victims of Hurricane Sandy because that hit the elitists on the coast, New Jersey and stuff. And so they said no. And just yesterday, I believe Senator Ted Cruz, whose state now is suffering and begging for federal funds, he had voted against giving aid to the folks in New Jersey who lost their homes and were underwater. And he said, well, I didn't vote for that because 2/3 of that bill had absolutely nothing to do with hurricane relief. It was pork. So the Washington Post today did a really long story by somebody who literally went through every page of that bill that all these Texas Republicans voted against. And the article delineates and pulls out anything that could be considered extraneous pork. And let me tell you, 2/3? No. 1/3? No. There were a few little things in there that harken back to prior disasters and were funneling a little more money to them. So the Post, this is the part of the Post that puts out the Pinocchios, you know. There's one Pinocchio is a lie, 2 Pinocchios is a wow lie, 3 Pinocchios is, are you kidding me? And then is there even 4 Pinocchios, or then it just goes to pants on fire or something? I don't know. Ted Cruz's statement yesterday that 2/3 of that funding bill to bail out the folks in Sandy that the Republicans all voted against got 3 Pinocchios. It's a lie. And one of the things that they all said at the time, because you know they're so budget conscious, that, okay, if we're going to give money to these people in New Jersey, then we've got to take money, other monies, out of the budget. You have to have across-the-board cuts somewhere to offset this unexpected cost. Do you think we'll be hearing that from the Texas Republicans now? I wonder how you can live with such blatant hypocrisy on the public record. It's not like you can say, well, I never said that. Wow. So, here's Senator Cruz. What I said then, and still believe now, is that it's not right for politicians to exploit a disaster. Right. Oh, dear. Oh, my. Breathtaking chutzpah. Excuse me, I did pronounce that correctly. Chutzpah. Sorry. And what's that? 4 Pinocchios. Oh, there is such a thing as 4 Pinocchios, too.
Yeah, so I was just looking into the rating system
And how's it go? It's not the Pants on Fire one.
No,
That's a different one.
Yeah, it ends with four Pinocchios. It just says Whoppers though.
Oh, wow.
The previous three have like whole paragraphs explaining.
Okay, and then just
Whoppers.
Okay,
So he got three.
3 Pinocchios, pretty bad.
Yeah.
I'd say Donald Trump, on a given day does about. God, let's not even think. Do you know he tweeted something today? I'm on the receiving end of his tweet. So he tweeted something today that came out of absolutely nowhere. It said something like, I didn't fill all those unfilled positions because blah, blah, blah. And I thought, who are you talking to? What is that? And then it turns out that other people who saw it were saying the same thing. What the hell is he talking about? And then somebody figured it out. He was, of course, watching Fox News. And someone on Fox News accused him of not filling some position. Well, the president didn't fill these positions because of it. And he was literally screaming back at his television. He was responding to something he saw on TV, and he tweets it out to all of us. And we don't know what the hell's going on. He's watching Fox and Friends and screaming at the television set through Twitter. We cannot live with this man in the White House for 4 years. It cannot be. There's no way it will happen. It'll be interesting to see what it is that finally starts to peel off the members of the Republican Party who start talking impeachment. It'll be interesting to see. So, Donald Trump, our president, has famously told us forever that he never did any business in Russia. I mean, and I guess he told that, he's repeated it how many gazillion times. Well, that's interesting because there are emails now. What is going to end up being the whole story here is just wow. So there are emails from one of his main broker, his go-to guy for getting stuff done, especially in Russia, because the guy was born in Russia. And never mind that this guy did time. And never mind this guy is part of what's generally called the Russian mafia. He's a good friend of the Donalds. And this is the guy who sent a number of emails to Trump's lawyer. And he just flat out say, all right, so I'm going to go talk to, Putin's guy here. We'll, And here some quotes like, we own this election, the guy says. And this despicable human being, who of course is one of Trump's friends, was also used by the FBI as an informant. Now, the reason they got him as an informant is because they had stuff on him. And this is your president's go-to guy for deals. And it turns out that Trump, who said he never did any business with Russia, had actually signed a letter of intent in 2015 to build a Trump Tower in Moscow. So I think what we're learning is that, my guess is that the love for Putin was just Trump doing business. He was buttering up the guy that needed to sign off on this real estate deal the Trump Tower in Moscow. It was to be the tallest building in Moscow. In order to get the deal done, Trump had to get Putin sign off. Knowing that, and knowing that all this guy knows is his little real estate business, that's what his love of Putin's about. Not as much about the autocratic stuff. It's he needed Putin to like him and trust him. And I can't imagine when this book is written how slimy, how truly repellent we will find this man and his business to be. This same guy, the Russian mafia guy, who, by the way, once smashed a martini glass into another man's face. I think that might have been part of when he ended up in jail. I'm not sure. He arranged for a trip for Ivanka 10 years ago to go to Moscow. And this trip to Russia for Ivanka was pretty damn cool because according to this creep, he said this: I arranged for Ivanka to sit in Putin's private chair at his desk in the Kremlin. Whoa, boy, that Ivanka. She sits in some pretty incredible chairs and some pretty incredible venues, doesn't she? This airhead princess. Ivanka has had to, of course, respond to all of this. And increasingly, every member of the Trump family is putting out statements. Their attorneys are putting out statements saying, I didn't, that was. And her statement on this was, she says, I haven't spoken to Mr. Sater or seen him since 2010. I've never met President Vladimir Putin, she added. No one said you did, darling. She doesn't remember sitting in his chair. Now, excuse me, if you sat in Vladimir Putin's chair at his desk, would you not remember that? Oh, she's such a little liar like her daddy. Unbelievable. And so Trump is now discounting his own attorney, this Cohen guy, is saying Trump knew about these dealings when Trump has said, you know what? If Trump ends up at any point in this, and I can't see how he's going to avoid it, under oath, whether called before a grand jury, which he could well be. There is a grand jury that's seated. As you know, another president in our time, Bill Clinton, ended up under oath, being deposed. And the minute you're under oath, you got to tell the truth. And since Donald Trump is incapable of telling the truth, he will lie under oath. Not once, not twice. He will lie and lie again, and he'll be caught. My. Okay, hang on. No. Go away. Sorry, I have some difficulty with the way this works. Yeah, Ed sent me something that right before Harvey hit, Trump had, signed that rule. Yeah, he got rid, I talked about it yesterday, got rid of the Obama rule that no federal dollars would go to any infrastructure projects that did not take into consideration rising sea levels. A perfectly reasonable way of tending to our tax dollars. Obama did the right thing. He was saying, things being what they are, we're not going to take our people's hard-earned money, which they send to us in the form of taxes, and we're not going to put it toward some development in New Orleans or in Houston that is going to create a condition, given the rising sea levels, that will make it either obsolete or will in fact exacerbate the problems that we will face as a result of this climate change. So, yeah, actually, if you think about it, all Trump's agenda really has been is dismantling everything Obama accomplished. That's all it's been. That's all it was. That's all it is. Nothing constructive, just destructive. And he's not alone. I mean, in that regard, he's aided and abetted by that grand old party. Another thing that he just wiped out that Obama did. And this, again, was one of those things that happened over the weekend when we were, understandably, our attention was on Houston. He did a lot of things under the radar, although he had the gall yesterday to say that he put out the Arpaio pardon during the hurricane so that it would get bigger ratings, which makes no sense, because he put it out during the hurricane so it would not get as much attention as it would normally. Oh my God. So the other thing he did, you remember Ferguson, Missouri? Mm-hmm. And remember the pictures, and then we started looking at the way those cops in this little town of Ferguson, Missouri were accoutered. They look like, Darth Vader's minions. They were some scary-looking guys dressed for military combat. And we started talking about when the heck did local police start having tanks and bayonets and grenade launchers. And it turns out, the military-industrial complex, our tax dollars go to create tons of killing devices. And so much so that our military is up to here in equipment. And that equipment becomes obsolescent very quickly because, you got to keep feeding that military-industrial establishment. And that tank that worked pretty good last year, we got a better one. So that becomes surplus, and we start building other stuff. And so, because they believe in recycling, I'm sure, there was a program to take this surplus military stuff and let police departments all over the country take whatever they wanted. And that's how you have, and Pittsburgh did, that's every city, every little tiny, there's like little villages that have armored vehicles. It's insanity. And it creates confusion in the police as to what their role is. Are they warriors? Is that what the police are? Because this is the equipment of a warrior. Are police warriors? Because if they are, who's the enemy? I guess that'd be us. No, the police, last time I looked, and all you could have to do is look on their badges or on the doors or on the logos, their job is to be protectors and to be servants. to protect us, not to make war on us. And so President Obama ordered a review of this program that the Pentagon had come up with, this lovely recycling program that militarized police departments from coast to coast. And Obama said, this doesn't make any sense. We're going to stop it. Not doing this anymore. So one of the things Donald Trump did over the weekend is he lifted Obama's ban. And now your local police department is once again going to be getting, I don't know what, anything. You name it, they got it. Grenade launchers. So it's insane. But when you don't have a plan, when your only plan is to destroy that which your predecessor accomplished, well, this is the kind of stuff you get. Chuck writes, Lynn, when Donald Trump speaks today in Houston, he first should, I don't think he's going directly to Houston. I think he's not that stupid, right? Oh, he's flying to Austin. Well, I think he's heading to Corpus Christi at one point. I think they've got enough, somebody around him has enough media savvy to say, well, first of all, you can't fly in. I don't think the airport there's even opened. You can't fly into Houston. It's underwater. When Donald Trump speaks today, he first should thank Hurricane Harvey for knocking his scandals off the front page. Never has a president needed a national crisis more than Donald Trump right now. Yeah, but he creates national crises national crises, he traffics in that. Lost in all of this, of course, is yesterday North Korea, again, shot off a missile and aimed it right at Japan. Yeah. I mean, they aimed it so the arc went right over the Japanese island, and the Japanese were like looking at this thing on radar. They saw it coming. They didn't know, what if it sort of malfunctioned and dropped? What if things fell off? And so, yeah, you got some serious crises going on all over the place, almost none of which are being attended to. Hang on, baby. Beth writes, I remember back with Katrina, there was much criticism of Bush not enacting a mortgage freeze for those areas affected by the storm. I guess this is some sort of executive power during times of national disaster, thus no payments because people can't get to work. They aren't getting paid, and the interest stops the day of the storm, and fees were frozen and not being charged to the victims of the disaster. As someone who was in New Orleans 4 months after the storm and lived there for a few months, this was so needed. I doubt it will be enacted this time. Houston will now be the city with the house tattoos, the spray-painted mark in front of the house. Was the house checked? How many times? Were bodies found? Were cadaver dogs used? Beth is reminding us of how after Katrina, how every house had to be searched, and to let people know that a house had been searched, they'd paint something on it. There were crosses, or where there was a body in it, or, oh dear. I also saw Ted Cruz on the CBS Morning Show, and one clip showed him in the food line at the Houston Convention Center. God. You mean he was giving food? He wasn't getting food, right? He was giving food, right? At first I thought, no, she said, I thought, are you fucking kidding me? You're taking food away from true victims? You mean he wasn't on the other side of the table dishing it out? He was in the line getting food? Seriously, please. God. Also, why are they not using the football stadium, the baseball stadium? They're both enclosed in Houston. There's been no word of them being flooded. I don't know. And one would think they're stocked with food, water, and bathrooms. And since they're both very new facilities, I'm sure there are generator systems. Fear they are not being used because the owners don't want them used. Since baseball is still playing. Yeah, but I think the games are being moved. I don't know why they're not using it. Maybe images of... What was that? Was that called the Superdome in New Orleans? Images of the horror of the stadium in New Orleans? I mean, it's a fair question. I don't know. And I've got somebody's always retweeting that phony minister Joel Osteen's crap, and so I get that on my account. And his church, he has a mega church in Houston that in fact is a repurposed stadium. It was a professional stadium. It's now his church. And he was tweeting stuff like Victoria, I don't know if that's what name is sticking in my head. My wife and I send our prayers to all the folks in Houston. Good Lord will provide and all that. And people started tweeting back, why don't you open the damn doors of your church? You've got that huge church. You got gazillions of dollars. You're a Christian pastor. Can you open up? There are people in desperation. And such a din was created on Twitter by people jumping all over the fact that he hadn't done anything. That he has now opened the church. But it was hardly a Christian act. It was an act of, he was bullied into it, essentially, to do the right thing. Aaron says, I'm excited to see the new studio, but I have to say it's fun watching the City Paper staff. You can see them? They wandering by.
Yeah, Bill just walked by.
They walk by. I keep seeing Bill O'Driscoll, who must be as OCD as I am at work. Why? I can't sit for more than 20 minutes without getting up. Oh, you're saying he keeps moving.
I think he's showing his new intern the office.
Oh, sorry. See, you're assuming things there, Aaron. He's showing his new intern the office. And Aaron says, Celine, please make a cameo. Also on the last day there, I think someone should do a streak right by. That'd be cool. Well, at this point, it appears that we may be staying here. I'm not sure I'm supposed to let the cat out of the bag. We had intended. Nothing is still totally solid, but since you brought it up, I'm hoping that we can stay right here. I like it. And once we get the issue of the phone system, there's no reason why I shouldn't be able to just stay here. It'd be nice, really. So that's what we're hoping to do, so that this will be, and maybe we can make things a little more, colorful behind me. I don't know. But okay, so fine. You watch watch those staffers go by. And Ed says, on Saturday, driving in the McKees Rocks area, I saw a strange flag flying from a pole in the back of a pickup truck. The design was an American flag, stars and stripes, but it was black and white with a vivid blue stripe horizontally across the middle. What is that? Have you ever seen that? So I have no idea what that is. If anyone knows, let us know. Henri writes, we have 2 national emergencies. Certainly Houston and the surrounding areas affected by Harvey. But we also have a big, fat national emergency sitting right there in the Oval Office. Indeed. That is a greater disaster, actually. And the impact of the disaster in the Oval Office will be longer term, I think, pricier in every way. I hate to say it. Even in terms of death, destruction. You're so right, Henry, that the disaster in the Oval Office is the larger one. Henry goes on, each and every member of Congress and the Senate need to spend some quiet time with their conscience, if they have one, and take steps toward impeachment. And, of course, in the room where the Democrats caucus, you can hear a pin drop. You're starting to see, somebody sent me today, I'm sorry, who a piece written by some legal scholars, but I was seeing where they were coming from, and I believe one was at the Hoover Institute or institution, and the Hoover Institute is a real conservative think tank. That's one of the original right-wing think tanks that were established. And it is a piece on the necessity of immediate impeachment. So the fact that we're starting to see these calls for impeachment, and this piece was laying out the potential grounds, and there are three whole areas that give you grounds. There is the total abdication of literally doing the job that he was elected to do. The failure to fill all those seats, to fill the government, to make the government function. There was another whole area of just moral turpitude. And I can't remember, but the other one was just sleazy business deals, I suppose. I mean, and the Russia stuff. Unbelievable. I mean, if ever a man, served in this office, and he's not serving, he's just marking time and grifting as much as he can. By the way, when you see him today, the president will in all likelihood be wearing a hat. You know, he always wears these hats. Now, I think the hat does not say, "Make America Great." He got a new hat he's wearing. Maybe you've noticed it. He was wearing it at the meeting at Camp David the other day, where he sat twiddling his thumbs while a bunch of serious adults tried to figure out how to respond to the hurricane. He's wearing these hats. I think they come in red and white, because I've seen both on him. And I think they just say USA or something. And you might ask, why is the president wearing that stupid hat indoors, sitting in a meeting with his staff, his generals, his cabinet? Well, I got the answer today. He's selling them. He has a store on the internet, I guess. And you can buy, he's now selling these hats. You too can have the same hat that the president was wearing today. $40. $40. What the hell ever happened to that emolument clause where a president was not supposed to make money? Huh? That's all he's into. He only ran for president in the hopes that he could get Putin to sign off. I don't even, boy, when the story is finally written, all the dots connected, it will be a story of such cataclysmic criminality, malfeasance, and sleaziness that has ever been conceived. end piece is. Someone made the comment that they believe Trump is so focused on undoing everything Obama did do because he's still upset that Obama made jokes about him at the correspondents' dinner years ago. Yeah, it could be. You know, you see with Trump, he doesn't forget. He doesn't forgive. And if there's one thing he's good at, it's bearing a grudge. And always looking for revenge. So I absolutely, I think there's absolute truth in that. The picture didn't come through, Beth, if you sent it. She was sending me a picture of Cruz in line. Oh, God. Taking food out of the mouths of starving people. Oh, God. Oh, Dorothea says that black and white and blue flag is a tribute flag intended to honor the police. Oh, yeah, blue line. Okay, is that what that is? Okay. Thank you, Dorothea. And, oh, it's Blue Lives Matter flag.
Oh, it's an American flag.
It's the American flag with a blue line through it, Blue Lives Matter flag, a response to, it's to counter the Black Lives Matter, which so many now consider a terrorist group. Dear God in heaven. Oh, yeah, here it is. Yeah. Oh, a number of you have the thin blue line flag. The blue represents the officers and the courage they find deep inside when faced with insurmountable odds. I guess that'd be us. The black background was designed as a constant reminder of our fallen brother and sister officers. The blue line is what police officers protect, the barrier between anarchy and a civilized society, between order and chaos, between respect for decency and lawlessness. Together they symbolize the camaraderie law enforcement officers share, a brotherhood like none other. Okay, fine. Thank all of you for all the play. Thank you, Leon. Everybody, I'm on it. We're on it. So it's the Stars and Stripes, but in black and white with a blue line taking one of the white stripes underneath the field of stars. Oh. Ah. Okay. So someone wrote a piece, I don't know, when was this? A week ago. And the headline is really all I want to mention. It says, Obama, where are you? And it really wants the president, the last person I would legitimately call president, they want him to come out, to start talking, to reassert a measure of leadership. And I feel that myself. But I also suspect that he knows that by doing so, he will inflame the loons. I'm sure he's a smart man. And I think as he sees this buffoon who took his place, doing nothing but destroying everything that he had tried to do in his 8 years, I think he knows that he makes Trump crazy, and he makes a whole bunch of Trump's base crazy. And if he were to come out, he might actually get them more riled up than ever. I just think that Obama needs to stay on the sidelines. What he needs to do, and what I keep saying needs to happen, is that he needs to maybe be the galvanizer of getting Bill Clinton and Jimmy Carter and H.W. Bush and W. Bush and getting all of the former presidents who all look pretty damn good now that we see what is possible. And as a group, bipartisan, as a group, Republican presidents and Democratic presidents, and you can even throw in the vice presidents, okay? We'll even get Dan Quayle. I'm serious, we'll get Dan Quayle and Joe Biden and who am I forgetting, huh? Oh my God, Dick Cheney. But if Cheney, yes, Dick Cheney, everybody, all these people who, the spectrum of their political differences is huge. But if they were to come together in one big, powerful moment to provide leadership in some way and to start maybe the process of taking this dangerous, dangerous clown down. That's my dream. So there was this quiz in the Post-Gazette on Sunday. I got almost everything wrong, and it was about women's equality. I got almost everything wrong. What was the first state to grant women suffrage? You say New York. Why? Because you're from New York? Because Seneca Falls? Well, sorry, buddy. It was Wyoming. Wyoming! Back in God knows when. It was like 1322 they were letting women vote. I mean, really. What else did I get wrong? Just about everything. I got that one right. Which state did not grant women the right to vote before the 19th Amendment was ratified? So when the 19th Amendment was ratified, that was the constitutional amendment that gave women all over the country the right to vote. But before that, a lot of states by that time had lined up. And so in state elections or local elections, but not in the federal election, women could vote. And here are your four choices, Alex. Which one still had not let women vote? Oregon, Arizona, Illinois, or Ohio? Take a pick. Take a pick.
Illinois.
Wrong again. It was our great progressive next-door neighbor, Ohio. All right, sorry. As I said, I flunked it too, so no big deal. So that's it, I guess, except, hang on. And Aaron has excitedly written back, yes, 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 please stay there. He loves looking at people walk by. From a viewer's perspective, it looks very alive, like the newsroom that it is. It feels just right and also offers lots of opportunities for people to pop in and do a quick visit. Exactly what I'm thinking. So if news breaks, I'm right here. I'm in a newsroom. Cool. So I'm hoping. Everybody pray, please, 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 please. I have, believe me, in my head, I've been yanked here, I'm going there, it's over here. You can't imagine what's happened in the last 7 weeks. But I think we've figured it out, I hope. Anyway, thanks for being on this odyssey with me. I'm more appreciative than you could ever know. And thanks. And toodaloo.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper or its advertisers.